In his new book called American Conspiracies, a former wrestler and Minnesota Governor, Jesse Ventura, says that he is exposing what he calls a shameful history of our government that includes lying about the 9/11 terrorist attacks, rigging presidential elections, covering up the truth about the assassination of Americans like John Kennedy and Bobby Kennedy, even Abraham Lincoln. I mean, whatever you mention, he says it was pretty much a conspiracy. So I had a little problem. I read this book. And that's not my problem, but not reading this book. So you dispute, Governor, almost every tragedy that's happened in this country, and no matter how much they have been investigated, almost every one of them you say, that's not what happened, all these people were killed, but didn't happen that way, it's all a conspiracy. Why do you have so little faith?
Well, first of all, why do I have such little faith?
Yeah.
Because I was lied to a while back when I was teaching at Harvard in 2004. Robert McNamara came through. And he stated unequivocally that the Gulf of Tonkin incident never happened. Well, 58,000 of my generation was killed in Vietnam. That was the incident that got us into the Vietnam War. 58,000 of my generation were killed, and probably 1 million Vietnamese killed over an event that never happened.
Everything else?
No, but the book's about conspiracies, so I have to do.
It created a doubt in you that obviously you're using to kind of try to reevaluate what happened and maybe expose.
All right, then let's follow up with the death of Pat Tillman. Here was a legitimate hero, left the NFL to defend his country. I'm a former Special Forces soldier. Or not soldier, sailor, excuse me. But I know that you can get killed by friendly fire. Why would the government lie to Tillman's family about what happened? They did it for political reasons, to create more of a hero than what he didn't need to be created as a hero. He already was one.
Let's talk about some of the things in your book, because what you're saying certainly makes sense. But you say that the assassination of JFK was the biggest cover-up of your lifetime, and that you have evidence. What you say was 2 bullets and not 1. It's been investigated and investigated. There was a report that just came out recently again that says it was from the 6th floor, one bullet. Why do you feel that the government has lied?
The key to if you want to talk the bullets, the key is not the headshot. The key is not the magic bullet that caused 7 wounds and hit 2 people and did something no other bullet's ever done in history. The key is the bullet that missed. Because you have to assume the accuracy of the first, the second and third bullet were so perfect to hit 2 people and the president in the head that the first bullet had to be a near miss. Well, it hit the curb and injured a man named Teague. Well, if you go to that spot and take a direct parallel back to where the limousine was, it'll go right into the 2nd floor of the Deltex building. If you take it and go to the 6th floor of the depository building, the shot missed 22 feet high and 33 feet wide.
So you think there were 2 different
floors? With the first bullet, who the heck is going to miss like that?
So, Jesse, why, with the conspiracy theories, why would the government lie? What would it gain for them to hide this information?
Well, on all of it, when it deals with war, there are profiteers at war. There are people that make big money at war. There are corporations that want to go to war.
Why would they lie about the assassination of JFK?
Why would they lie about it?
Yeah, why would the government lie?
Well, I believe it's because John F. Kennedy was not, he had already refused to go into Cuba. He was going to pull us out of Vietnam and not even get in there. Powerful people wanted that war to happen. So the simple way to do it, kill the president. Here's the point. I just read a book on LBJ, his first 24 hours after the president was killed. Now, bear in mind, we only have advisors in Vietnam. We don't have any ground troops yet. This is 63. His first meeting as the new president of the United States was over Vietnam.
Well, Jesse, can I ask you something? Like, I completely respect how, because of your experience, you do feel as though you're betrayed and lied to. So I understand how then you look at something anew and want to kind of dig into where the truth is and where the lies are. What I have a hard time respecting, this has come up before, is what you write about in your book, that the Bush administration, and you say, either knew about the terrorist plan of 9/11, allowed it to proceed, or they had a hand in it themselves. Building 7 as an example. You do believe that the Bush administration was behind that building coming down?
It was never hit by a plane, and it fell in 7 seconds, and it was 49 stories high. And they're telling us that fire can drop a skyscraper in 7 seconds. Think of basic physics. That's as fast as the speed of gravity. No resistance. Where's the resistance?
Why did it have to be the Bush administration?
Because that's when it happened.
But Jesse, in terms of I could just say one thing. We want to talk about physics too, and I understand, you know, we hear about steel burning and what degree it can burn at. There have been, I mean, engineer after engineer from the Institute of Studying Steel who have said at 1100 degrees, okay, and fuel burns between 800 and 1500. So smack dab in the middle of there, at 1100 degrees, it's weakened by half.
All right.
If steel can bend, concrete around it will crack, will fall, FHC.
All right. Why
No,
were
I mean,
things
these are
throwing,
specialists.
why were massive girders thrown 500 feet away and embedded in other buildings? Well, it can melt. The jet fuel was gone on impact. Have you ever seen a drop of fuel there after a plane hits? Boom, you saw the big explosion. There went all the jet fuel. There was no more jet fuel. So you're saying carpet burning, Xerox stuff burning, drapery burning?
You've seen the destruction
Can I
down
talk
there.
about the motivation? Because you also said, by the way, say it was not a plane that went into the Pentagon, it was a missile. Whatever one may feel about President Bush, you say the reason that this was done was to protect oil interests or because the president wanted to have the Iraq war. That the government would deliberately kill 3,000 people to accuse the president of this because of he's protecting oil interests. Governor, that's a terrible accusation to make.
And it also paints him as a genius, which is against Joy's conspiracy that he's an idiot.
Well, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Okay. First of all, I don't think he ran it. I think Cheney did. Because they had the president. All right, give me an example. The president's down in the schoolroom, down in...
Cheney really wanted to have the cause of death of 3,000 people? Come on.
58,000 of us were killed in Vietnam.
Let's stick to this story.
I'm just giving you, Barbara, another example. You're asking for examples, and I'm giving them to you.
But isn't it like someone dating an
right
abuse?
about this is that even if we get the answers, even if you're right, even if the other guys are right, those people aren't coming back.
No, that's true.
That's the biggest drag about all of
But
this.
the biggest drive is let's educate ourselves so it can't happen again.
Why do you blame the media? You blame the media quite a bit also. Tell us about that.
Well, the media, all right, let's go back to the assassinations of the important people of the 60s, which we cover. Everyone was killed by a lone nut.
Yeah, that sounds a little fishy.
Nobody else, they didn't talk to anyone, they didn't conspire with them, and they were all failures at everything else in life.
Right.
But they were hugely successful.
When you say that we need to get this out there so that we don't let it happen again, how do we know? I mean, we're putting our trust in our elected officials. How do we know? We don't.
Trusting elected officials.
That's an oxymoron.
There you go.
Exactly. But how do you not let it happen
I didn't
again?
want to write this book. When they approached me with it, I first said, no, I don't want to do it. But then I thought for about 2 weeks on it, and I felt I have to write this book. Because 100 years from now, I don't want people reading and think that we all believed. I want people to know that there was a minority opinion that didn't go along to get along. And always remember what Thomas Jefferson said, dissension's the greatest form of patriotism. If you don't hold people's feet to the fire, elected officials, you'll get bad government. If you hold their feet to the fire, you'll get better government.
If you, in this book, you write about all the folks that came forward and mysteriously died. Does this worry you?
I'm sorry.
Well, if everything I wrote in this book is false, I have nothing to worry about. So I guess I only have to worry if what's in there is true.
Okay, so this is a fascinating discussion, and however you feel, it certainly is a fascinating book. Everyone in our audience is getting a copy of it.